This is an AI-generated deep dive based on the original German transcript of the Mr. Futsal podcast, episode 226, titled Futsal is a Matter of Faith CL Draw Transfer Rumors. The original hosts of this podcast are Sebastian Raut and Dr. Daniel Weimar. We are now handing the audio over to our host to jump right into a chronological discussion of the material.
So imagine you're trying to build a championship-winning sports team. You fought tooth and nail through your domestic league. You finally qualify for the Champions League, and your reward for all that.
A massive financial crisis.
Exactly, a massive crisis because you now have to figure out how to fly your entire squad of essentially amateur players to Armenia on Tuesday.
Right.
And that is just the bizarre, beautiful, and absolutely chaotic reality of European futsal right now.
It really is a landscape defined by wild extremes. I mean, you have this absolute raw passion colliding with just brutal economics every single day.
Yeah, and we are seeing that collision happen right at the grassroots level in Germany as we head into this new Bundesliga season. The original podcast host actually launched this unconventional initiative. They invited every single Bundesliga club onto their platform to build up some hype.
Which is a great idea.
It is, but here's the piece that really caught my eye. They are offering to personally live stream club games for a flat rate of 200 euros plus travel expenses. And okay, let's unpack this, because if you know anything about broadcast production, you know that 200 euros doesn't even cover the cables.
Oh, not even close.
Right. I mean, a real broadcast needs a multi-camera setup, a vision mixer, graphics software, a sound engineer. You need a commentator. These guys are basically operating like a garage band playing a gig at a local dive bar just for gas money, Just doing it out of pure love to keep the local music scene alive.
That garage band analogy is perfectly fitting, actually. It really highlights the exact mechanism at play here. Because when you break down the actual economics, this isn't a business transaction at all. It is an act of faith.
Right.
They are voluntarily absorbing a massive financial loss. And why? Because they know these German futsal clubs are operating on razor-thin margins.
Just scraping by.
Exactly. If a club has to choose between paying for court time or paying, say, 2,000 euros for a professional broadcast, they're going to choose the court time every single time.
Obvious, yeah.
So by stepping in and offering this massive discount, well below market value, they are actively injecting a baseline of professionalism into the sport from the ground up. It's about creating a polished external image so that a casual fan scrolling online sees a real broadcast, not just some shaky iPhone video from the bleachers.
Yeah, it's just a raw hustle to keep the lights on for the sport locally. But that brutal financial reality of scraping together pennies for a live stream in Germany is exactly why stepping onto the international stage feels like landing on an alien planet.
Oh, completely different world.
Because globally, we are talking about serious institutional maneuvering and just absolute powerhouses. Look at Kazakhstan. Kairat Almaty just won their domestic league for the 10th time in 11 years.
Yeah, it's wild.
And in Spain, it's Inter, Barcelona, and Cartagena holding this decade-long stranglehold on the trophy.
And that kind of serial dominance is fascinating, but what you really want to look at is the structural foundation allowing those clubs to exist.
Yeah.
Because the governance models globally are as wildly different as the teams themselves.
Which perfectly brings us to France. Nantes Metropole Futsal was just officially cleared by the DNCG. And if you're listening and don't know French sports, the DNCG is not some polite advisory board.
No, they are a ruthless financial watchdog.
Exactly. They literally have the power to administratively relegate a team overnight if the balance sheets don't add up. There were heavy rumors that Nantes was going down for licensing issues, but they just proved they are entirely financially healthy. But then you contrast that extreme regulation with the United States.
Right, the U.S. model.
There is this organization called United Futsal, and they're starting an 8-team league with a $50,000 prize pool. And if you look at the source material, it is a complete black box. Literally no one can figure out their actual business model.
What's fascinating here is that stark contrast in sporting governance and what it really tells us about how a sport matures. In France, the DNCG acts as an aggressive auditor. They demand to see player contracts, stadium leases, guaranteed revenue streams.
They want to see all the receipts.
All of them. And if a club passes that test, like Nantes just did, it sends a powerful signal to corporate sponsors. It says, hey, this is a safe investment. On the other side of the Atlantic, The American model is currently operating in the sort of Wild West phase.
Yeah, total Wild West.
We don't know who actually owns these franchises. We don't know if that 50 grand is backed by ticket sales or just some private billionaire. And we don't know the revenue sharing model. It's basically a pop-up league driven by prize money rather than structural oversight.
And all of these conflicting national models are about to collide because the 2028 FIFA Futsal World Cup bidding is underway right now, and the candidates are a wild mix. You have Indonesia, Morocco, Kuwait, Spain, and France.
Quite the lineup.
It is, and I mean, if I'm FIFA, I'm taking this to France 10 times out of 10. You need massive stadiums, world-class hotel infrastructure. You need the logistical perfection that a highly regulated nation offers. Why on earth would you risk putting your marquee tournament in a developing market like Indonesia?
Because if you only chase logistical perfection, you risk putting on a tournament with zero soul.
Oh, interesting.
Think back to the recent Asian Cup in Indonesia.
Yeah.
The infrastructure might not have rivaled Paris, sure, but the fans created this absolutely deafening electric atmosphere that you simply cannot buy.
Right, it was incredible on TV.
Exactly. It is the ultimate administrative dilemma for FIFA. Do you reward the raw, chaotic, authentic fan culture of an emerging market? Or do you prioritize the guaranteed structural growth and corporate safety of a nation like France?
Yeah, and that tension between safe infrastructure and raw passion perfectly explains the nightmare facing German clubs right now. Because when you realize how heavily the deck is stacked in favor of the elite European nations, it completely explains the panic when a German team actually qualifies for the Champions League.
Yeah, the logistics of it.
The UEFA draw just came out. TSV Weilimdorf is the German representative, and they are in Group B of the preliminary round, playing at the end of August.
And this is exactly where the romance of those coveted European nights crashes headfirst into the reality of accounting.
I mean, the logistics are staggering. Weilimdorf has to travel all the way to Armenia. They are grouped with FC Tallinn from Estonia, Unisport FC from Armenia, and Reykjavik from Iceland.
Quite the road trip.
Right. And if you win, you advance to the main round path B in Poland. But if you're listening and thinking, hey, a trip to Armenia sounds like a fun team bonding experience, you have to remember these are essentially amateur players. Wait, how does a grassroots team from Germany fund a trip to Armenia to play a team from Iceland? Isn't the travel cost alone completely prohibitive for a developing sport? You're paying for flights, hotels, compensating guys who have to take unpaid leave from their actual day jobs.
It is a massive barrier to entry. And the thing is, it is intentionally designed that way.
Wait, what do you mean intentionally designed?
Look at the bizarre format of the Champions League. It is fundamentally split to protect the elite clubs from these exact logistical and financial shocks. The absolute powerhouses, your Barcelonas, your Sporting Lisbons, they don't play in these preliminary rounds.
Or they just skip them.
They are automatically seeded into Path A of the main round based on their historical coefficient points.
Okay, let's break that down. How does Path A actually work for the big guys?
So in Path A, you have groups of 4 elite teams. But here's the kicker. The top 3 teams from each group advance to the elite round.
Wait, 3 out of 4. So Barcelona could literally lose 2 out of 3 matches in their group, play terribly, and still advance.
Exactly. It is highly forgiving. It ensures the biggest television draws don't get accidentally eliminated early. But for a team like Weilimdorf, they are fighting through the preliminary rounds just to reach Path B.
And Path B is different.
In Path B, it is a brutal, unforgiving bottleneck where only the single group winner advances. The developing nations have to play flawless futsal while footing massive travel bills, while the elite clubs get this huge safety net.
That is wild.
Though, I should note one incredible anomaly. The Swiss team Minerva has spent the last decade painstakingly hoarding enough coefficient points by winning these grueling preliminary rounds that they actually forced their way into Path A this year. They get to play Barcelona.
Wow. That is an unbelievable achievement for a Swiss team. But, knowing you have to face this brutal, rigged European gauntlet completely explains the philosophical war happening back in the German domestic transfer market right now.
Oh, absolutely.
Teams are panicking. They're trying to beef up their rosters to survive Europe, and it's tearing the league's identity apart. Kojicic's move to Weilimdorf is official, which is a big deal, but the real friction is the rumored sellout of Liria Berlin.
Liria Berlin being, of course, the gold standard for developing U19 talent in Germany.
Right. And now Weilimdorf is targeting their young star Xydias, and Hohenstein is targeting the Smith brothers. And this drives the original podcast host crazy because of the geography. Hohenstein literally has 3 local youth development bases right in their backyard. Leipzig, Dresden, and Jena.
Yep.
They even have a youth-based head coach on payroll. So why on earth are they ignoring their own backyard and just swooping in to buy Berlin's fully developed talent? It undercuts the entire concept of a developmental ecosystem.
Well, if you're listening to this and thinking, isn't that just how all professional sports work? The rich teams buy the best players.
Yeah, people say that all the time.
And you aren't entirely wrong. Through a sociological lens, buying success is a perfectly legitimate strategy for a team with resource advantages. However, you have to look at the specific currency of German futsal.
Which is what exactly? Because it sure isn't television money.
Exactly. Without massive TV contracts or billionaire owners, the only true currency a developing futsal club has is community engagement. True organizational competence isn't writing a check. It's the painstakingly slow process of developing players, building a local kid into a star.
Right, because of the local connection.
When a kid from Leipzig plays for Hohenstein, his family, his friends, his neighbors buy tickets. If Hohenstein just buys players from Berlin, they might win a plastic trophy, but they sever that local community tie. It creates a non-competitive monopoly at the top of the league, and historically, nothing drives fans away faster than a league where the winner is decided by a checkbook rather than authentic local growth.
Yeah, it's the classic difference between being a wealthy club and a smart club. But while the men's domestic league is busy fighting over the scraps of talent, it's actually the women's side and the digital side of the sport where we are seeing the most explosive, organic signs of life.
Some really surprising data points lately.
Yeah. The German women's university team just took 4th place at the FISU Games, which is this massive international university sports competition. They proved this high potential of female soccer players successfully transitioning to futsal.
Which makes sense. The tactical awareness is already there. They just need the platform.
And speaking of platforms, the digital footprint is acting incredibly weird, but in a good way. On Instagram, the official DFB Futsal account, the German Football Association's page, usually gets a very modest 200 to 300 likes on a post.
Pretty standard for niche sports.
Right. But recently, they posted a photo showing the German U19 men's team losing 10-1 against Spain. And here's where it gets really interesting. That post inexplicably shot up to 12,000 likes and drove 400 new followers.
12,000 likes on a loss.
Yeah. How does a post about getting absolutely crushed 10-1 go massively viral? Is the Instagram algorithm just completely broken, or did the word Spain just trick regular soccer fans into clicking?
It's likely a psychological trigger in the algorithm, actually. When traditional soccer fans see the word Spain, they immediately associate it with absolute technical mastery. They click to see Spain put on a clinic, but in doing so, they inadvertently engage with German futsal content, training the algorithm to serve them more of it.
That's hilarious. It's like a digital Trojan horse.
Yeah.
And while that's happening online, there is this huge institutional milestone happening at the executive level. A grassroots executive named Dennis Gerritsen successfully lobbied the Lower Rhine Football Association to include a mandatory 1-hour futsal module in the official DFB club manager license.
That is massive.
It is. That means 120 regional football managers every single year are now forced to sit in a classroom and learn about futsal.
And you really cannot underestimate the power of that single hour. Because what do you think they're teaching in that module? They aren't just going over the basic rules. They're explaining the biomechanics and tactical benefits of futsal for traditional soccer development.
Oh, like how it translates to the big pitch.
Exactly. They are showing these managers that playing in tight spaces with a heavier ball creates soccer players who make faster decisions under pressure.
So we have this random viral Instagram glitch, a university tournament success, and a 1-hour management class. How do these connect?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, these are all classic foot-in-the-door moments.
Okay.
You don't legitimize a fringe sport by running a $10 million Super Bowl ad. You do it through quiet, organic infiltrations. A skeptical soccer manager is forced to learn about it in a class and realizes it could help his youth academy. A casual fan clicks on a viral post and follows the page. A university soccer player tries it out and falls in love. These are the tiny, quiet sparks that eventually legitimize a sport to the masses.
Which perfectly brings us to the core thesis of this entire deep dive. All of these updates, the local guys running a live stream at a massive loss, the teams flying to Armenia against all logistical odds, the weird viral spikes, it all boils down to one monumental question. How does futsal actually break through the bureaucracy of the German Football Association?
The $1 million question.
Literally. And one of the original podcast hosts shared an analogy from his new day job in corporate data science, and it is absolute perfection. He was discussing his company's data governance department. Now, this is a department that costs a lot of money, sets up rules, and crucially, has absolutely zero immediate measurable return on investment.
Right. It is entirely a cost center on paper.
Exactly. You cannot put data governance in a spreadsheet and show the board a profit. Yet his CEO mandated it anyway. Why? Because the CEO inherently understands data. He didn't need a spreadsheet to prove its worth. He just believed in it.
He was a true believer in the concept.
Yes. And applying that exact same logic to futsal, you cannot currently prove futsal's financial ROI to the DFB. It is impossible. So sending them 10-page strategy papers and promising them future ticket sales won't work. The sport is only going to explode in Germany when a true believer gets elected to the DFB executive board. Someone who has lived the sport and doesn't need a PowerPoint to understand its value.
This touches on a really profound pedagogical and organizational concept known in German as a Vertrauensvorschuss.
A Vertrauensvorschuss, let me guess, I'm probably butchering that.
You got it close enough. Translated literally, it means an advance of trust.
Oh, I like that.
Think about how major institutional shifts happen. You don't invest in a new idea because it is already massive and highly profitable. If you wait for it to be profitable, you aren't leading, you are just following. True development requires an executive to grant an idea an advance of trust.
Because they see the potential.
Exactly. They have to vividly visualize what the ecosystem could look like in 10 years and fund that vision today. Futsal doesn't need administrators who just manage the current spreadsheets of German soccer. It desperately needs visionaries who are willing to grant that advance of trust and build a foundation for a future they believe in.
An advance of trust. Man, I absolutely love that framing. So, to briefly recap the wild journey we've been on today, we started in a local gym with two guys losing money on a €200 live stream just to keep their community alive. We traveled to Armenia to face the logistical nightmares of the Champions League. We debated the philosophy of buying teenagers versus developing them, and we ended up at the absolute necessity of giving an advance of trust.
It's been quite the ride.
It really has, and it makes you step back and look at your own decision-making processes. Think about your own life, your career, or your passions. Where are you demanding immediate spreadsheets and hard ROI when what you really need to do is give a trust advance and treat it like a belief story? Sometimes the most important investments you will ever make are the ones that don't make sense on paper today.
That's a great takeaway.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep looking for those sparks of organic growth in your own world, and we will catch you next time.